Hi everybody, welcome back to another reaction of Aurora's latest album. It's called Heathens, and we'll get into it straight away. What does she say? What track number is it? It's all going to be revealed right now. This is Heathens. It's track 7 and the 4th single released from Aurora's 3rd studio album, The Gods We Can Touch. That absolutely is the most streamlined album when it was released in the world. And she's been described by Forbes magazine, as said in a previous reaction, as being one of the 3 most named individuals and influences of music over the coming 10 years. Imagine. Our queen has ascended to be almost a goddess. Well, she is in most people's eyes anyway. But in an interview with NME, Aurora stated that the song was about how Eve took a bite of a forbidden apple, which you'll see in my special thumbnail I've created. From the research and from this, I created, I think, a very special Heathens thumbnail in honor of our queen. So Eve took a bite of a forbidden apple hanging from the tree of evil and good, and in her act of doing so, she granted humans free will. I just think it was very beautiful, and I wanted to honor her and women like her, who little by little granted us freedom in this world. The song itself was inspired by the Greek goddess Persephone, the goddess of the underworld and wife of Hades, and also the goddess of spring growth. Now, I've also accompanied this special thumbnail with, to give you an image of the goddess Persephone, I've done a special image with Aurora in the middle, and then you've got Eve biting the apple, and then you've got Persephone. And she continued, who little by little granted us freedom in this world. A freedom to live as we please, to explore, to taste. This is the extra bit I wanted to give you. I think life should be lived in all its colours, and that is why we live like heathens. Now, also she said, the mother in this song, she offers love and room and a home to all people that aren't welcome elsewhere. That's the spirit of the song. That there's a mother figure or somebody opening up themselves to you. And it's very inspired by women, especially how many women have been punished and burned just for being a woman. It's an ode to women. So I'm going to be conscientious of that in my lyrics. And it's track 7 of 15 from The Gods We Can Touch. Links in the description. That's all you need to know. And let's get on with the song itself. I am so looking forward to this. It's an audio video. Elijah, you'll get the lyrics coming up, which is fantastic. And I shall also give this video, all my videos, all Warrior fans know this already, are in 16 languages for other countries and other followers of my channel around the world to enjoy as well and savor our Warrior Queen's music. And another reaction of mine to her wonderful album, The Gods We Can Touch. Boy, am I looking forward to this. I'm just going to sit back and savor the music. I really am. Oh, excited is not the word. Take it away, Aurora and Heathens.
She bargains with the world, so everything she wants will come to her. With no greed inside her mind, she knows what she deserves. We fell from sky with grace and landed in her soft and warm embrace. She gave her love, her gift of life, so we could live with her. That is why we live like heathens, stealing from the trees of Eden, living in the arms of freedom, and everything we touch is evil. That is why we live like heathens. The stone, the dirt, the dust, the unforgiving promise made to us, unworthy of your light, your God, your touch. We're guided by the will be hers. A mother with no heart will give love. Her love is yours, but only if you give your heart to her. That is why we live like heathen, living from the grace of heathen, living in the arms of freedom, and everything we touch is evil. That is why we live like heathen. That is why we live like That is why we live like
Oh, or this album on so many levels, it's touching me here. Constantly. My mind is awash with what I'm going to say beforehand. So that was a great song. I'm really enjoying everything about this album. Let's go into just two things before I do go into the lyrics. Let's go into what heathen means, because we've got a song titled Heathen. It's come from the album, it's her interpretation. Heathen is a word, and it says a person who does not belong to a widely held religion, especially one is not a Christian, Jew or Muslim, as regarded by those who do. So if you're not affiliated with a certain religion, you're known as a heathen. And then let's go into, because it gives you more of an understanding of where the lyrics are coming from, where Aurora is coming from. And then she talks about this Greek mythology, Persephone. Now, is the daughter of Zeus, and Zeus was the sky and thunder god, and Demeter, an ancient Greek religion and mythology, Demeter is the Olympian goddess of the harvest and agriculture. So she is the daughter that Aurora has taken inspiration from. And this goddess became the queen of the underworld after her abduction by Hades, the god of the underworld. An ancient Greek religion and myth is the god of the dead, and the king of the underworld was this guy. And so he took her with the approval of Zeus, the father. Imagine, her father uncle. And the myth of her abduction in the underworld and her temporary return to the surface represents her functions as the embodiment of spring and the personification of vegetation, especially grain crops, which disappear into the earth when sown and sprout from earth in spring and are harvested when fully grown. And it's in classical Greek art that Persephone is invariably portrayed as robbed, often carrying a sheaf or grain. And that is what I think the symbolism we need to understand of the inspiration of heathens, because this is where Aurora is getting her inspiration from, that women have carried that. And as I've mentioned before what she said, they've been burned, and this is a homage and a song to them, to recognize them. So we have that bit of background information as well, and I think it's a nice touch to have. We'll go straight into the lyrics now. I just have to find them, sorry everybody. Here we go. And we'll go straight into what I think the song is about very quickly. Verse 1, she bargains with the world, so everything she wants will come to her, says Aurora, with no greed inside her mind. She knows what she deserves. We fell from sky with grace and landed in her soft and warm embrace. She gave her love, her gift of life, so we could live with her. Is Aurora talking about a god? Is Aurora talking about a mother figure? What do we get from that? because the chorus says, that is why we live like heathens, stealing from the trees of Eden, living in the arms of freedom, and everything we touch is evil. That is why we live like heathens. I think we live like heathens for many reasons on many different levels. And what I'd say is, she bargains with the world. Who bargains with the world? Mother God, Mother Earth, Mother Figure. Which woman in your life? Because this is a homage to women and those that we have forgotten about, and those that made this world for women a better place. So I feel it's the soul. She bargains with the world. Each new living, breathing person bargains with the world when they arrive at birth and when they're growing up. And they're like the little seeds in the ground that Persephone used to, because she carries a sheath, harvest from the ground up. Birth is like that. It's like Mother Nature. So you do, when you come into this world, it's almost like a woman has to bargain with the world the minute they're born. And even though she knows what she deserves, and even though we fell from the sky with grace and landed in her soft embrace, because Mother Nature takes care of nature, and she's saying we're all women take that bite of the apple like in the Garden of Eden, but at the same time we need protection, and Persephone was there to protect us and give us that love and that warm embrace. Not us. I'm now putting myself in the shoes of a woman to explain this in the best way I can, so we could live in harmony with her as one on the earth. So it's a beautiful introduction to the goddess, to the Garden of Eden symbolism, and just to Aurora's way of always bringing that element into her songs to say, these women are our protectors. Mother Nature is our giver, and those that went before us, even when you think of the Joan of Arc who was burned to the stake for what she believed in, they're strong women. We can't forget them. And if you believe in these women as fellow gods, as fellow people who have to be worshipped and thanked, you are almost despised upon because you're a heathen. And they were considered heathens. They were considered, they had different beliefs. A woman wasn't supposed to think. She's supposed to have babies and that's it. Who are these women? And over time, women were always mistreated and manipulated by men and the world. And women were like stealing from the apple and taking the bite of the forbidden fruit, in the sense of how they think, how they felt, their beliefs, all of that. So it all comes into it. And everything we touch is evil, says Aurora in her lyrics, because anything that a woman did outside the box of being a wife, being a mother, was considered evil. And that is why they secretly, over time, always lived in the corner and had to almost have secretive groups. But Persephone, the Greek goddess, always looked after these women, always looked after those kind of people. They were like her little seeds on Mother Earth that grew. And she was there. She was taken into the underworld, so she knows good from evil. She knows how to keep the evil away. She's learnt that from Zeus, her father, who allowed her to go to the underworld. Well, she was basically, wasn't she, taken against her will, but she's aware of it. So we come into verse 2, the stone, the dirt, the dust, the unforgiven promise made to us, unworthy of your light, your guard, your touch, we're guarded by the lust. We cry the fallen names, we cry for those who burn beneath the flame, we stand beside the good and brave, the broken and enslaved. So that is a whole verse of recognition to the torture, manipulation of women since time begun. It's still going on. Religion plays an awful part in how restrictive their lives can be. We look at, I won't mention certain religions, but we know of the religions. We're more informed these days. And even I, as a man, say wow, I'm glad my mother was able to speak her mind the way she did, be the strong woman the way she was, live her time the time that she lived. Because my grandmother, everybody, was one of the most famous women in Ireland. Years ago in Ireland, in the 30s, 40s, you particularly 50s, you particularly had a period where a man farmed the land, woman stayed at home, had the children. But when my grandfather died, my grandmother was thrown into a situation here in Ireland of being either a traditionalist or fighting the system. And she fought the system to farm her land because it was automatically given within the family. It was almost like the cousins, male cousins, came along and took over the land. And she basically told my grandfather's relatives, "You're not getting the land. I'm his wife. I'm going to farm it." She had to go to court and prove that she could farm it. And she did. And she entered a male dominant competition of proving to everybody in a competition that you could plough a field. It was called the Ploughing Championships, very famous today now. And in her heyday, she went to that competition because she was forced into a land issue where she was told land is going to your male cousins. And she said, if I win the competition, then I want to keep the land. And she was the first queen of the plough in Ireland to win the competition, became very, very famous in the county, of her county, and became very famous and was able to keep the land and farmed it and paved the way for a lot of other women to have that ruling taken away from them, that male cousins came and took their land. So in a modern way, it was very different, very forward thinking of my grandmother. And the picture is actually, if I can grab it for your attention, everybody, and this is the proof of my grandmother. The Louth Lady wins Queen of the Plough title, National Plough Match Distinction. That's my grandmother on the tractor. So I'm only showing that as a person who had to fight the system within my family. So I know where Aurora is getting her influence and her inspiration from, but I always get it from my grandmother. I have it hanging up there. And I always get my inspiration saying, look what that woman had to do in a male-dominated world. Now, years ago, she probably would have been burned to the stake and shot and the land taken over. But she fought her way. And even in Gaelic football, she said women can play Gaelic football, and she led the way in that. And one of the few women in the country that set up the whole thing for women and encouraged it, and women to go in. And to this day, we have finals, we have everything. But my grandmother was very much a feminist within a marriage, very much. So the chorus leaves us with, that is why we're living like heathens, stealing from the trees. My grandmother was like the one biting the forbidden fruit. Entering a male-dominated society, it happens. And living in the arms of freedom. And she got her freedom when she won. And everything we touch is evil. Yeah, when she entered and became very famous, there was a lot of jealousy amongst the men that she was more famous than the previous men winners. So she was considered like a heathen. So I can relate to this through her stories to me. It's a wonderful, wonderful song of encouragement, of recognition, of honor. And I hope I've done my grandmother honor today in this video and you've enjoyed the story, but equally given recognition to a wonderful song inspired by our wonderful Queen. Thanks for listening. Take care.